next? Well, actually, you know, they say things happen in threes. I have 3 first names. Most people know me by my middle. I guess it's a Southern thing. Clayton would recognize that. I was actually named after my uncle, William Hayden, who was killed in the Second World War. 3 months after his 21st birthday, he was reported missing in action. They saw a parachute successfully leave the plane, but on the ground a farmer killed him with a pitchfork. Mom never really got over that. I was named after him, William Hayden. Names are funny, but we have William Greenfield and we have William Seaton and myself, and here's 1, 2, 3, like Tinker's Everest to Chance. Bill Seaton, rock the room, sir. Come on up.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't think there are as many Williams these days as there once were, but for 1,000 years, it had a very good run. Let me begin by saying a word of compliment to Bill about your pacing. You know, one way to describe poetry that makes sense to me is it's the most densely significant code our species has invented, and for that reason, your kind of measured delivery makes it easier to hear things that we're not familiar with, you know, for the first time. So, thanks for that. And thank you, Hayden, for making this happen.
Friends, and you guys are just phenomenal. The power of the word. This is a great evening. This is a great evening.
I've been lately reading mostly from my latest book, Planetary Motions.
Show the people, please. You can see it.
But I think tonight I'm going to be more expansive and read from things over a longer time period, do a number of old things and lead up to.
And please show the book in the camera so people can see it.
The new, well, this is the Planetary Motions, William Seaton. And let me begin though with a little book of poems about traveling that I call tourist snapshots. Okay, yes, it's a nice photo I like on the front there of a vendor in Morocco. But I'll do a couple things out of here. This is in Nigeria. After rain, the one-legged chicken hops next door. Winged ants take to the air. A mouse dashes furtive along the floor. The sun ignites my hair. The shortwave sounds berserk. Breaths suspended in this bush where weaving spirits lurk. Water still and nothing seen, but in the eye a fish's scale. One drop of dew falls every hour, and desire chokes on its swallowed tail. That's the tropics for you. Okay. Here's a little vignette in South Bohemia. In Trebonne, a naked and pregnant cast figure parts the waters of the Golden Canal. Outside of town, the rooster's cries like memory traces going back for generations. We paused by the pond of the world, where ducks limned slow hieroglyphics of ripple and wake on the still surface, and watched the sun's descent. Without a word, to the drunk with a beer bottle up front and spirits in a bag, or to the philosopher with the most rational gray hair and light blue enlightenment eyes who stood on the dock. Shortly the philosopher turned, mounted his bicycle and wheeled off, and we too turned back toward town, leaving the sweet sadness of the sunset and the pond of the world to its most dogged connoisseur. And do one more from this right now. This is Guaymas, Mexico. Desert sun rains stillness over skulls and sentiment. Heat falls resigned on cactus, sage, and slow as teeth. On dry hills, things scamper, run from themselves, scaly feet push off hot earth, thoughts dance like water beads in a frying pan. Sun's glance blasts the bay, earth's abdomen rips open, revealing saltwater fish savor sweets fine as filigree glass, but tender to the tongue when they embrace and differences dissolve. The pile driver sun stamps a gold foil nimbus about the brows of shoeless bootblacks. And then this was from Spoor of Desire. It was, I guess, about 13 years ago or something. Oh, I haven't done this for a long time, and now it's no longer true, but this was my apologia for shaving after 20 years. And then I went another 20 years, and then I went one day and began doing it again. So here is, after 20 years. Because outward alteration can stimulate changes within, and it is salutary now and then to seek to surprise oneself, and even the best of neighbors. Because too many people looking my way saw only the beard and nothing else, and we have, regardless, too many barriers to the soul. And bearded men, it is well known, are far too easy to draw. And it was a sorry thing at best, worn, patchy, insecure, with little voice in the Congress of Beards. And thus, even as it asserted my maturity, it conceded that adolescence was still upon me. Because I suffer willy-nilly from excesses, and among these excesses are pedantry and poetry, and I need no signifiers to push the point. For a smooth chin is a feminine thing, and the world would still do well to be a bit more womanly. For my masculinity is adequately evinced by impatience in stores and traffic jams, and by my iron resolution that no one shall pass me ever on the bicycle path. And thus the beard was superfluous. For mine was a beard that meant youth and not age, and now I am no longer young. Because after even more than 20 years, the shock of seeing my own face might have been, oh, too great to bear. For already the beard had grown white enough to show the shadows of my own ghost too clear, and I fled at last. Here's a very old one. This one is in this book from 2008 or something, but it was written in the 70s. This is Learning Love of Flies. Fly, it's time to speak. It's you have sought me out and lit upon my skin, impelled intimacy while I dined on scorn, thinking your songs sound always just the same. Little herald of Kali, learn some style. Or did it take 10,000 years to learn to cease to bite? Discipline of dunghills and corpses which flowered in your forehead's 1,000 eyes, that see the nut of nutriment in shit. Your rule is hard. Only eat those alms that are too small to see. And delicacy overflows when you remind me with your touch, taking nothing, bearing grace so great you come and go and come again. Is it for this you gained your motorcycle greens and blues, dark glory like oil on water? My mind is filled with swarms of flies. Go on, go now. Find some spot where sweet perfume and awful merge. Practice coy returns and dance about a drop of juice. Make hurry and excited joy in slender necks of bent grass. And this is placing before even the earliest video games, pinball. Now they have electronic pinball, I guess. Is that real? Pinball. Does anybody recall the old pinball, gaudy games from Gottlieb of Chicago, surely mob connected to appeal so nakedly to desire and to give so little in return? In a kind of mechanical model of fate, the player gazed like a god at the ball, that lost soul, shiny and spherical in perfection, impossibly restless, moving among the glamorous ladies, cowboys, fat cats, racers, heroes, all with frozen grins, the ball propelled, carom, leaping like a flea with fleas, falling fortunate into value, points the hope of another go round, through exertions of will, button pressing, and then the sudden tilt. You were named after your uncle who died in the war. I was named after my uncle, who I here describe. Namesake. The youngest son, a good boy, stayed at home. He'd left school once he learned to read and add. The closest that he ever came to wealth was saving each utility receipt. But always Uncle Bill was spirit rich, if whiskey stashed in every room were cash. He never dressed but in big overalls, and skipped the shirt when summer sun was hot. He'd sit upon the toilet seat for hours and leave afloat a dozen camel butts. Bill always drove a brand new Mercury with leather seats in every option too. Its engine hopped up faster than the cops. And when Bill drove the twisting country roads, he always was pursuing and pursued. Here's my version of a political poem, I guess, from the tax money heads south. At the time, this was written for the people demonstrating against the School of the Americas, that trained the people for Latin America. I'm caught in a sorry skein, like that old tyrant Oedipus, but no full-throated cry breaks the silence here. $1, already sour with broken clocks and dyspepsia, lifts from the dresser, takes off like a butterfly, circles in sudden remembrance, and slips toward tropic sun, flutters by a beach where small and barefoot boys chase but can't keep up. It's drawn to the tinkle of crystal against ice, the shuffling of linen napkins, the feet of servants in a vast patio of quiet talk, of dinner parties and dusty roads, boutiques and wet alleys, crunch, explosion, and final bone snap, scream as a chandelier drops surprised in the foyer. The computer indicts me and starts to list the witnesses, the VCR, CD, fresh squeezed orange juice, all give me up. And the angry blue corn tortillas calls Zapatista slogans from my pantry. The cash nexus fills the room. My eyes remain intact. But it's impossible to see. Here's another little bit from Nigeria. The woods were full of fragrance as he wrapped a few choice peels and shadows, shreds of life, to make some juju like the mind's shot put. He hung the parcel under dripping fronds, and oft a silent hippopotamus slid and glided on with radiant wake. Unlikely as the wish that's fired aloft, the hammer of the cocked grain flashing home. And I did this whole book of Dada poetry from about 100 years ago. This is 4 German Dada poets. The poetry is mostly between 1915 and 1920. And for my money, they did everything the avant-garde has done ever since. That they've been going through these same gestures again. And when these guys did it, then it really amazed people. It shocked them and shook them up. And I think it's pretty tough to shock the poetry or the art audience these days. But anyway, I'll do 2 of these. Emmy Hennings was the most prominent woman in the group. She was a cabaret singer and made puppets and did everything. She was also a poet. She wrote a book of poetry that has never been translated into English called The Last Joy. Here's her Twilight song for her husband, Hugo Ball. Octaves reel, and through the gray years, echoes as heaps of days collapse upon themselves. I want only to be yours. Within my tomb, my blonde hair grows. In elderberry bushes live strange folk. A pale curtain whispers homicide. 2 eyes range restless through the room. Inside our cupboards, spirits hide. Little fir trees are the children's souls, and ancient oaks the souls of aged men that whisper of miscarried lives. The Cliff King sings an old, old tune. I had no guard against the evil eye. Though black men creep out of the water pail, the picture book's Red Riding Hood has me in thrall for once and for all time. And then the more characteristic note of these Dada poems is represented by, I was going to do a Hülsenbeck poem that is, some of these are they're like fireworks of images just going off in every direction. I lost the place here for the moment. Okay, this is a poem by Richard Hülsenbeck, who in fact came to the United States and practiced as a psychiatrist. He founded existential psychiatry. You don't hear about that anymore. In the 40s, that was the latest thing. Go to an existentialist psychiatrist. So he carried on doing sort of avant-garde things. Let's see, I'll do one of his poems that is, here's this, I'll attempt anyway. Tree, it's called. Slowly, the house heap opened up in the middle of its belly, then the swollen necks of churches howl in the depths above, while here they hunted like dogs, the colors of all clay yet seen, all sounds ever heard hurtling, rattling to the center, colors and sound shattering like glass and cement, and soft dark drops fell heavily down. The stars rattle in chorus now and hold a plate high in their hand. Oh, Allah, Kada, Bauda, Hojo, Joe, Hojo, Hojo, Lodo, Modo, Ho! Ah, Burubu, Boo! Hee hee, oh, Burubu, hee hee, oh, Hojo, Lodo, Modo, Ho! And white and strong old man, ho! And mud-tossed kiosks, ho! And those hours that are filled with the shimmer of brass trumpets, bassoons far gone in drink, wandered to the pointy grillwork, and casks in red suits, junk welled up. Ho! Oh ho! Oh ho! Oh mezze notte that gave birth in the tree. The shadow whips, beats your body now. The blood you dine on over the horizon is white. Boats hung with banners fare forth between your breathing in and breathing out. Oh ho! Oh ho! Over the mirror of your body, the howl of the century flies. In your hair sit polished storms like parrots. In the wrinkles of your brow is crepe paper and tinsel. All kinds of butchery lies buried before you. Oh ho! See, millions of gravestones are your midday meal. Your clothes have that cadence of ebb and flow, and when you sing, streams dance before you. Oh ho! Joho! And then you sing. Your voice goes on. Oh Allah, Kada Bauda Hojo Ho, oh Hojo Hojo Lodo Modo Ho, oh Burubu Hibi, oh Burubu Hihi, a Hojo Lodo Jodo Ho. This is the same movement, or I think it was Schwitters who used to perform his poem, which consisted of the letter Z only, and it was said that he would take 15 minutes to perform his poem of the letter Z and go through every emotion known to humanity while doing it. I've attempted to duplicate that too, but I'm sure not as well as he did. Okay, now we're caught up now to planetary motions. Andean day, and this is in Peru, the Urubamba rushes toward its end without the slightest care for what's to come. A solitary piper on a dust-filled street in town puffs out his fate. It's gone. Big kerneled corn grows dry and strong in sun. Take some to save against what jars may come. A bowl of coca leaves can soften some the stones and bones of every passing hour. Thin air sublimes the thoughts and makes them rare, for heaven tells no more than these high peaks. And I'll do a little bit out of the endless epic declamatory work. I'll just do a half page of it. This is called The Metaphysics of Everyday Life. It's the 1,000-page manuscript, in legend anyway. What Socrates called wind eggs may not be without value in the end. For the church and the film industry, Socrates says, that's nothing, it's nonsense what you're saying, it's just wind eggs. Wonderful. Wind eggs are not without value in the end, for the church and the film industry, and indeed all advertisers likewise trade in images and enjoy good custom indeed, though poets still go begging. For liberation as well as manacles must be mind forged, though the meadow breeze in one's hair is nonetheless palpable for that, nor the dizzying sight from the peaks, and we must be glad of our bargains and catch them whenever we may. And the sum of all things is precisely nothing at all, when positive charges meet negative and matter meets antimatter and finds annihilation so perfect and sweet it makes a most elegant end. And we can only think that the primary concerns of the cosmos are aesthetic, in spite of baryon asymmetry and other pebbles of ignorance that cramp our walk and give us blisters sometimes. And each of us must be off at last to join the many, for a single slip on a January morning may overpower a legion of intentions and halt the burgeoning of a host of futures, each full of fresh promise. For, like him, it is all we can do to pursue the vermin that annoy and the nightmares that trouble our sleep and the furtive darting threats that circle about, seeking to gain advantage in this imperfect light. And we can only breathe together and think and gaze each other in the eye and know we also walk a path that can only end in drama and alarm. For the pot will continue to boil, and sometimes to boil over, and sometimes to simmer, and in it the currents are drifting, describing lovely patterns that never repeat, and the dance cannot come to rest, and in this it is like feet when the music plays. That's a sufficient sample of that. I'll do, there are two little, you may know the Provençal form of the Alba, the morning song for the lovers waking up in the morning, and it was done in Germany and it was done in northern France, and it has different names in different parts of Europe. Here is an Alba. Censorious light through feeble blinds breaks in and charges us to rise if we're not ill. If flesh on flesh heals flesh, we're healed. The velvet cat breathes husky, ease-found yays, with which, for now, I think, we both concur. And there's another one. Silent and awake, we watch the nighttime pass and see the first light come through glass to this home's sublime high second-tier boudoir. On this grand bed of spacious hemispheres, white skin can catch the light and soften glare, at once all clear and teeming like the outside air. Now's the time to hunt that fleshly trace, that glyph of cutting grace. And a couple more. I'm going to read the Lama swine toil is the surrealist chaplain, sometimes possesses me and comes out to give benedictions and instruction and spiritual instruction to poetry audiences. This is in the third person, however, domestic incidents from the life of the Lama swine toil. 4 incidents. 1. The Lama felt dyspeptic after eating a large plate of pakaras while distractedly talking of the loftiest matters. His devotee said, "But how can your belly be other than calm, O great enlightened one?" And the Lama replied, "If you would be so kind, go out and get me some Tums." 2. Lama swine toil was very fond of miniature golf. He found that each course made a marvelous metaphor for human life. He never tired of passing between the turning windmill arms, over that dangerous puddle, and finally into the clown's mouth. 3. The Lama was beginning his crossword puzzle. He said, a 5-letter word meaning wisdom. But that is the meaning of every word. So he left the puzzle blank and joyed in its empty perfection. 4. The Lama adored Jello, not with pears or walnuts or even carrot shreds, but clear with its luminous artificial color. He would enter the diner, order a serving, and stare into its depths as though it were a crystal ball. Sometimes he would be lost in transports for hours. The waitress would have to bring him round. And this guy, she said, then too, he doesn't understand tipping. And I'll end with another translation, a poem by Rimbaud, the Lice Pickers. When Rimbaud was out on the road for a time, then he came back full of lice. And these two ladies removed them from him, the Lice Pickers. When the child's face, so full of red raw sores, employs the pale swarm of vaporous dreams, two great charming sisters come to his door with their frail fingers and silver nails gleam. They seat him in the casement window chair, open to a blue air bath where scent lingers. He feels through his dew-laden heavy hair the touch of fine, fearsome, charming fingers. To him, their cringing breathing makes a tune of long, honeyed notes, vegetal, rose hips, every now and then a whistling croon, the wish to kiss or suck spittle from lips. He hears the beating of their black eyelids in perfumed hush. Electric hands so nice, crackle sweet amid gray indolence hid as regal nails bring death to little lice. Then in him rises up the wine of sloth, the breath of a mad harmonica's sigh. The child feels, along with their slow caress, come and go without end, the wish to cry. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
World traveler, polylinguist, heart big as a house. What a pleasure.